Hello, my name is Jennifer, and I'm a trans widow. Women in our situation need a word for ourselves so we can find and support each other and share what we know to warn others and raise awareness. The phrase trans widow conveys what many of us feel at losing our husbands or partners to a fetish. A trans widow is a woman whose male partner or husband insists that they have a gender identity other than man, or a man who has chosen, most often by way of an entitled mix of 24/7 porn and recreational misogyny, to indulge himself in cross-dressing and other women-mimicking behaviors full-time. This sometimes includes the use of wrong sex hormones and surgery, but sometimes not. But within a marriage, it always includes domestic abuse. These men, the old-school transsexuals that many say are harmless, know that they aren't women. They don't want to be women. Their behavior is about power and domination. It's about reducing women to parts for male appropriation and dehumanizing us via coercive control, boundary violation, sexual and emotional violence until we are sufficiently repurposed as servile support beings to their fetish. My ex made it clear after I escaped him that he would continue to torment me in any way he could until I was worn down to nothing. I decided to speak publicly under my own name because that was the way I thought I could maybe make me and my children a bit more safe, because people would know what was happening. So if something happened to me, they would know why. The circumstances for trans widows in Ireland is grim. It was set up to be so. In 2015, as people have said, Ireland granted people the legal right to lie about their sex. Extremely minimal public consultation was made, and none whatsoever with those who would be most adversely affected by this legislation, the wives of men who avail of a GRC. We are not, during any part of the process, informed. And even after these men receive a gender recognition certificate, we don't know. We have no way of finding out. So we don't know whether we're legally married to a man or a woman. Trans rights activists see Ireland as the gold standard of self-ID and claim no woman has been adversely affected. We all know this isn't true. TENI, the Trans Equality Network Ireland, who lobbied intensely behind closed doors for this legislation, has always been headed and largely made up of middle-aged and up ex-husbands and fathers who know that if their wives had a voice, these men would be exposed for the thoroughly entitled, predatory, abusive fetishists they are. Trans widows are a threat to many because we can blow this trans thing wide open. We know exactly what's driving it. We've seen it, lived with it, and suffered under it. We experience the formidable networks that these men have developed. We know they're after the children. It's excruciating to watch kids and vulnerable people being targeted with trans, knowing what we know. I escaped my ex nearly 15 years ago, but the horror only increased as I witnessed my children being indoctrinated despite my best efforts to protect them. So the ex-husbands and fathers of the Trans Equality Network and men like them did everything they could to make sure no one would ever hear from the ex-wives and children of these men. A few years ago, after the big sneak of 2015, when Irish women's voices were beginning to be heard above the trans activist lies, groups like Amnesty Ireland and the National Women's Council of Ireland and individuals like the chair of Women's Aid signed a letter calling on media and politicians to no longer provide legitimate representation to women who questioned or criticized self-ID, so trans widows and our allies were even further disenfranchised. A marriage contract fundamentally changes when one obtains a GRC, but spouses in Ireland are not informed. I still don't know if my ex has a GRC. He said he got one, but he is not big on truth. There's no spousal exit clause like there is in the UK and Ireland because women were purposely kept in the dark indefinitely. I've tried to find out if my ex has a GRC for years through many channels to no avail. We have no way to predict or prepare for how this might or might not affect us or our children legally in the future. We can be sure that sorting it out will be prohibitively expensive for most of us, because a very common method of abuse employed by our spouses or ex-spouses is financial abuse. Most of us are left with very little to try to get on with our lives. And with that, getting on with our lives is made as difficult as possible. Even though our exes claim to be women, they all benefit from the old boys club, that is, men rallying round each other when a woman is heard to be unruly. I face this version of the circling of wagons alone in a new country with 3 little kids in tow. Even though I got my kids and myself away from my ex all those years ago, this behavior continues today. Yet I'm often framed as the villain by former friends and even family for not shutting up and taking it. One of the most difficult things trans widows endure, if we have children, is that they're used as weapons against us. Our kids are used as pawns, not just by their fetishist fathers, but by the state, the media, their schools, arts and sports organizations, mental health professionals, family court, supposed women's organizations, even our GPs, our neighbors, our friends, and our families. Like most victims of abuse, trans widows get little to no help from the police. I asked for their help many times over the year, and I got none. I was laughed at more than once by Hill officers. I once rang, I live in a really rural area, so the police are in town maybe 10 minutes a week on Tuesdays, maybe. And the nearest guards are about an hour away, and this was only a few years ago. My ex was back in the country. He lives in the Philippines now. And locals say it's because he likes the prawn noodle there and the weather. I think we know why he's in the Philippines. Anyway, he was sitting outside my current house for hours at a time, so I called the police to tell them what was happening, because I had heard that he was out to get me again or something. And they would not take a report from me. They never have. And I asked them to at least take a description of him. And when I described him, the police officer on the phone said, "Well, what were you doing with a weirdo like that anyway?" You just can't win. But I'll tell you that the guards wasted no time landing at my front door a couple years ago when a couple of men complained to them that I tried to raise child safeguarding concerns about a fetishist from the Trans Equality Network who was also he was a BDSM furry crossdresser, and he was invited to town for a tea and chat about the benefits of medicalizing LGBTQIA++ children. The police arrived at my door because I tried to raise concerns about that. No one would listen to me because the same 2 men told everybody that I was just homophobic or anti-LGBTQIA+, which is not true, but it works. So I'm a bit of a pariah now in my wee town, because after I spoke up, people who would still dare to claim that they stand up for abused and vulnerable people have shunned me. I'm now socially inconvenient. They want to keep telling themselves this is all a storm in a teacup and bury their heads in the sand about their own part in harming women and kids. They'd much rather accuse me of hate and extremism than take responsibility and get off their asses. Others are just annoyed that I'm such a party pooper, ruining the crack at the local Pride Fest by highlighting the serious danger posed by the TQIA++ cult. But I know one thing about those people. If they or their kids were forced to endure even half of what me and my kids have, the same people would expect the world to stop spinning, for everyone to pay attention and prioritize helping them. But trans widows aren't allowed to be angry. We're not supposed to stand up for ourselves. We're supposed to just let others use us in the abstract for their own arguments and be grateful for that much, at least, much of the time. We're to wait patiently for our betters to half sort this mess out, but not completely, because there's, profit to be made, and we and our kids seem to be an acceptable write-off. My experience of abuse is one of the reasons why I resist so strongly the idea that protecting children from trans can be achieved without protecting the rights and boundaries of women. Strong boundaries are the most basic way we have to keep kids safe. When the boundaries and rights of their mothers are trampled, when women are dismissed as extremists, ultras, radfem activists, kids are purposely made more vulnerable. Women are the first line of defense kids have against predators. We can't protect kids by sidelighting or vilifying women.
And Jennifer, what are some ways that you have been supported as a trans widow, and how has that support affected you?
I think the most encouraging thing for trans widows is to be heard. Most of us are coming out of intensely abusive situations where our grasp of reality was constantly under siege. To know that we aren't alone, that people understand what we are expected to endure is unacceptable, no matter the excuses and drama our exes use to distract from their abuse of us and our children. The more trans widows' voices are platformed, the more everyone will realize the realities of trans. We really can blow the top off this whole charade. Our voices are out there, thanks to tinsel of trans widows' voices who worked tirelessly, just herself, for years to platform our side of the story while doing everything possible to keep us safe from our abusive exes and punishing society. The brilliant Vaishnavi Sundar made us a film called Behind the Looking Glass. It's available free on YouTube. And there are women's Substacks, articles, podcasts. Some trans widows have published books.
And Jennifer, the same question. What's been the greatest benefit for you of speaking out? The greatest perk of being courageous?
I can't say there's been many perks. It's a pretty rough and relentless road for those of us with skin in the game. I've been dealing with trans in one form or another, or from several directions at once for 25 years. But I've learned that despite being a rather timid person, I'm scared to death right now, I'm very strong. I'm quite sane, despite years of gaslighting by my ex, my friends, my neighbors, my family, and wider society. And I know I won't be bullied or trodden on ever again, and that I will help make sure that others aren't either. There is one very big perk, and that's all the wonderful, brilliant, brave people I have connected with since I spoke out. Most of whom I now consider friends, even though I haven't met most of them in real life, except today. I still really love people and fun and being goofy. And I want to mention that far and away the strongest support I've received is from lesbians. Lesbians aren't playing, they're there for women in the most basic ways, the practical ways that I so desperately needed a few years ago. They will come to your house from hundreds of miles away and sit with you for days and make sure you are okay. They will encircle you and feed you and laugh with you and tell you off and ground you. I don't know where I would be without the friendship and support I got from lesbians. Lesbians are a woman's best friend because they'll remind us that though we might love men, we are under no obligation, nor is it necessary to put up with their shit.
Thank you both so much for sharing. We'll now hear an interview that our Vice President Seán did with Sall Grover, another very courageous individual.
I created a women-only social networking app called Giggle. I did it not knowing that there was any problem of what a woman is. And on the 7th of February 2020, I woke up inundated with abuse, 1-star reviews. We hadn't properly launched yet or anything, and found out that there was something called a TERF, that you could be accused of something called transphobia, and that probably the worst part of it was that not only were men claiming to be women, but then a lot of institutions and governments were actually taking them seriously on that. But I thought that it would blow over quite quickly. I thought it was just so preposterous, so stupid. And so I was just like, we'll just tread water. This will blow over and we can move on and run a platform for women. That did not happen. Cut to 18 months later, I got an Australian Human Rights Commission complaint for alleged gender identity discrimination because a man who claims to be a woman was removed from the app, which was, I don't remember doing it. Men who claimed to be, or just men tried to get on all the time. I don't know what their identity is or anything, nor do I care. So it would have been me that removed him at some point. So to settle it in the Australian Human Rights Commission, I would have had to agree to let him on the app, let all men who claim to be women on the app, pay him $20,000, attend sex and gender education, which could only be re-education because I know what a woman is. And probably the most sinister part in a way was moderate all of the content on the app of what women were saying so that men who claimed to be women were not offended by anything. So not only did they want to be in this space, they actually wanted to control the space. So I said no to that, knowing that it could then escalate to federal court, which is exactly what happened. So I was taken to the federal court, which is the second highest court in Australia. So we've got our highest federal court is called the High Court. Just under that is the federal court. So it's been a very long time. So this started in January 2022. In August 2024, we got the decision, which I lost. The judge declared that sex is changeable. This is because Julia Gillard, our first ever woman prime minister, during her government, she, unbeknownst to anyone, there was no vote or anything, she removed the definitions of man and woman and put in gender identity. And simultaneously in Australia, anyone who claims to have a gender identity who wants their birth certificate changed, they can change the sex marker. So it created this concept of legal sex. So someone can be biologically male, but legally female. So that's why effectively the judge says sex is changeable, even though in reality it's not. And so I'm currently appealing that decision. So it's the stupidest court case name of all time. It was Tickle v. Giggle, because the man who took me to court is Roxanne Tickle. It is now Giggle v. Tickle, because I'm now appealing it. So that will be heard in it's called the full federal court. So it's in front of 3 judges in August. Probably get a decision by the end of the year. And whichever side loses is kind of inevitable that we will go to the High Court. The whole time, part of my defense has been a constitutional challenge, basically challenging the validity of these amendments in the first place, because there was no vote. They snuck them in the dead of night without anyone knowing about it or being able to have a say. And it goes against the intention of the act and a bunch of different sort of boring legal things. But that's basically who I am and where I'm at. And it's completely turned my life upside down. I thought that I set out to run an app for women. It was a startup. Anyone who's been involved in the startup space knows that it is a struggle session for however long. And you have to make so many sacrifices for it, all of which I was very happy to do. But then this happened. I mean, what are the chances that you create an app for women in the one time in human history that no one claims to know what a woman is? And so to sort of be cancelled and have your startup cancelled right out of the gate, for something that's so stupid, such a lie, is something that is, it's affecting my life daily. So whenever anyone, and they say it to me online, like, how do trans people even affect your life? I'm like, well, actually they've turned it completely upside down, because if you want to go out there and do one thing for women, or the lesbians who want to do one thing for lesbians, or even if you just want to stand there and say, I don't think that a woman who claims to be a man can be a gay man, your life will be turned upside down. Maybe it's becoming less and less, but for those of us that have been in the trenches for quite a while, it was quite significant. And one of the things I'm sort of, I suppose, asked quite frequently is, do I regret it? Like, if I could do my time over, would I do anything differently? And the only thing I would do differently is I would come out guns blazing a lot more than I did. I was still, like many people, very soft in the beginning, trying to be like, oh, maybe there's a compromise, until eventually you realize there actually is no compromise in this, legally speaking, and even socially. We cannot have a society that is built on a complete lie. We can't have a society that is sterilizing both children and adults for genuinely no reason. Of this level of misogyny and homophobia, this is not sustainable, not in a civilized society. So yeah, I don't regret it at all. And I know that when I look back over the course of my life, like in however many years that is, I will be very proud that I did this. And I will say the one silver lining is that you meet people like yourself, these brave, intelligent, insightful, amazing people all over the world. And there's sort of this new community of young and old people who have all come together to fight for truth and reality and for women's rights and gay rights. Just who would trade that in for anything?
Exactly. And throughout this process, obviously it takes a lot of courage to put your head above the water and fight back against this. What advice would you give to people who aren't fighting and they want to get involved and they want to do something about it?
It depends on your situation. Like, I do have sympathy for people who just genuinely can't speak up. If you're like sitting there going, you know what, if I speak up about this, I'm going to lose my job and I've got a family to feed, I have a mortgage to pay. I get that. I was just, you know, so we're all in different positions and stages in our lives. I was sort of lucky that I didn't have those kind of responsibilities in a sense at the time. Like 5 years ago, I was completely single. I have a daughter now, so it's changed a bit, but I was able to just sort of make some decisions because it was just me. But so I understand if some people have some genuine fear because of the repercussions, they actually can't have those repercussions. So in the event that you can't do that, then just support the people who are speaking up. So if you can do that anonymously, and then if everyone's bolstering the voices who can speak up, then together we'll end this. But if you are someone who can speak up and you're just wondering whether you should or if your voice will be worthwhile, yes, it will, 100%. So if you can do it, do it. Because yes, you might lose some people in your life. My reaction to that is a little bit, because I have lost some friends and some family to this, but I was like, you're jumping me, our relationship, because I'm saying men aren't women. I'm like, well, our relationship was built on nonsense. I thought it was real and it wasn't. So best I find out now, I suppose. And the relationships that are sort of that come along, and these new ones are built on truth, and it's much more honest and real. And so again, you don't regret it because there's all of these new people that you're around and inspired by. So just my advice is just to weigh it up, make a decision that works for you.
Where do you think we're going to go from here? When you look back in 10 years' time, do you think we're going to be looking at a different world? Are we going to be looking back at this like that was a crazy period in time? Or do you think we're constantly going to have to fight this?
I think that gender ideology will become a thing of the past, and I think it's going to get quicker and quicker until that happens. So there's a chance that in 10 years' time, we're very much looking back on this as just a completely different world. And we'll all be there going like, how did we survive it? And definitely there'll be people who that for that is even more meaningful. Because the train has very much left the station. Like, there's just no going back now. In terms of the executive orders in the US, the UK Supreme Court decision, it's just, you can't undo that. Like, once reality is finally broken through and so many more people are aware of it, you can't push it down. Like, the only way they were able to get away with this for so long and infiltrate in institutions like they were able to is because no one knew it was happening. So now that more and more people are aware, it's just impossible because we're all watching. Even people who, you know, aren't completely switched on to what's happening, there's more awareness than what, say, we had 10 years ago. And I think that this is going to be an absolute, obviously, blip on the history of humanity, just something, a complete shame. And but over the coming years, there's going to be some people who we're going to have to be very sensitive to and really caring to. And I'm a firm believer in two wrongs don't make a right. So for everyday people who fell for all of this nonsense, I'm never going to hold it against them, because you know what? No one is above falling for nonsense. We all have to some degree at some point in our lives. So we're all going to have to just suck it up. Politicians and media and doctors, different standard, but I'm talking just everyday people. You know, everyone makes mistakes and it's okay to admit you got something wrong. There's also going to be a lot of people sort of over the next coming years, they'll be in their probably early, mid, late 20s, who are going to realize they've made the biggest mistake of their life, and they're going to need a lot of care and support. And there's going to need to be a huge safety net for them, because there's going to be a level of regret that a lot of us can't comprehend. And there's no point sitting there saying, I told you so. It's going to be, okay, how do we fix this and make your life better, and make the rest of your life as positive as possible? So yeah, we're going to have to remember our humanity, because this is a period of time that has had very little. And so if we lead with humanity and truth and reality, we're going to be building a better future, a better society, and a much better cultural zeitgeist than we've experienced for far too long at this point.
Brilliant. And lastly, what has been the best part of this for you? Like, other than meeting people who are very like-minded, what has been the best impact on your life that has made you just be like, I don't regret a single thing? Was there like a particular moment for you?
I mean, has there been a best thing yet? No. No, I mean, the meeting people and sort of having all of these new, especially women, sort of intellectual heroes is just something so invaluable that I'll just cherish forever. But there hasn't been a moment yet that I've felt like some sort of complete, like, say, personal satisfaction with it all, in the sense that I am still so deep in litigation.
Yeah.
So I do think of the moment when I hear a court say that this man is not a woman. I can't fathom the relief I'm going to feel. So I know I'm holding it all in at the moment. So I look forward optimistically to that day, and I know it will eventually come. So that sort of keeps me going. But yeah, it's the small victories along the way in terms of, you know, different relationships and the different things that you learn or different things you become inspired by, that make it all worth it. And also, like, I have a 2.5-year-old daughter to raise now, and sort of having a foundation in truth becomes, and reality becomes, all the more important when you are suddenly teaching this tiny little person about the world. I don't want to lie to her about anything, and I want her to grow up in a world that has women's rights. I can't send her out into the world without it. So in that sense as well, I'll never regret it.
Great. I think one thing that's really beautiful is when you go on your Twitter in particular, you see all the replies and all the people giving you support. They all come from all over the world, all different walks of life, all different beliefs and backgrounds, yet they're all here supporting your case. Like, you can see the impact your case has, not just in Australia, but across the world, and it gives people a lot of hope. Even though you lost the court case just there, it's still sparking hope in people. It's like there's going to be another one, there's going to be more to fight for, and you just see all these people gathering in your support. So I think it's a great thing, and I hope you know that you have the world behind you.
Thank you. I mean, I mean, you know, obviously we're doing the appeal now, and then the final one would be to the High Court. And so, you know, there's definitely no hope lost yet at all. And, you know, I very much have that attitude of, you've got to be in it to win it. Nothing's going to change if I just sit back and go, well, that's too hard. It's like, no, like, everything that's really worth it is a challenge. So, like, just buckle up. But I honestly couldn't do this without the support of people from all over the world, because not only is it like the emotional support and encouragement, but it's the donations to pay for it. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's going to be well over $1 million Australian dollars by the time this is finished. And I, like any normal person, did not have over $1 million laying around to go and do litigation to establish what a woman is. So it's been a team effort from everyone, from all walks of life, all ages. I mean, there's potentially lots of other things we don't agree on, but that's fine. In a democratic, secular, liberal society, we can all have our different opinions, our different beliefs. What I'm fighting for is reality, and just will be forever grateful to everybody who has helped me in the fight. And all I can say to repay everybody is that I will never give up.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, that was a very stark reminder of just how real things can get when you're affected by all this gender madness.